Welcome to On Her Terms Defined. My name is Charlene Ketchum. I'm your host, and today joining me is Dr. Javon Willis. She is a financial advisor support specialist at Edward Jones. She is also the founder and CEO of Elitist Consulting Firm. She's also the best-selling author of the book, The Price You Pay, and she's a journalist for Real STL News. She is a PhD in educational leadership and policy studies from the University of Missouri, St. Louis. And her testimony will inspire you to find your way through trauma and to pursue a path of healing and empowerment. Y'all are gonna love this conversation today. So before we even started recording, we had started talking about the book, and I made notes because I wanted to make sure some of the good tidbits that she shared during our pre-convo, we touch on during this discussion. I read the book a month ago, and I had to go back and just to prepare again last night, started rereading again. And one of the biggest things was just being really proud of you, Dr. Willis, for writing this book and just sharing your testimony that a lot of women out here need to hear. You know, a lot of women find themselves in intimate partner, and I'm saying women, but audience understand, I recognize that men are involved, men can be assailed and assaulted in these situations as well. So it's not just men, but I'm specifically saying women because this is a show that's focusing on women's issues. Right. So just to clarify that, so that people don't say men, it happens to men too. But we're talking about women today. But a lot of women, they don't have any examples of someone who has successfully ended a relationship in which there was violence or abuse and is thriving and glowing after it, which you are doing. So thank you for sharing your testimony. And thank you for making time to chat with me and with our audience.
Well, thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure. I love what you're doing. Thank you. I'm honored.
Thank you. So one of the reasons I was really interested in your book and your story and talking to you is this celebration that we have culturally of struggle love. Because there are so many people who tout, I've been with this person for X number of years, and yes, he cheated, yes, he did, XYZ, basically broke this woman down emotionally and physically. And it's like, well, but I love him and we're still together. And this perpetuation that you have to go through all of this hardship and pain in order to get to that light at the end of the tunnel. Like, have you noticed that? If not on social media, but just in real life?
I've noticed that, I don't really understand that concept, really, but I've thought about it a few times, like, why do we put ourselves through this? And I really think that it has a lot to do with loyalty, right? Because loyalty is such an important thing, right? We pride ourselves on being loyal to people, on being loyal to situations and everything. So the struggle love has to do with, I stayed loyal through all this stuff that this person was doing or going through. And because I stayed and I did this, I should have brownie points for that, right? Right. For me, loyalty is like the biggest thing. That's my love language. I am very loyal to, anything I get involved in. Really, I try to be loyal, especially people, but, and that's one thing I really pride myself on. However, one thing that you have to realize, or what I realized, is that in me trying to be loyal to this situation and me priding myself, I was really being disloyal to myself, trying to be so loyal to this other person because I was trying so hard to be who I feel I naturally am. But really, I was shooting myself in the foot because honestly, as great as loyalty is, not everyone deserves that energy from you. Not everyone deserves for you to stay and to ride it through with them. Some people, you have to cut them off. They don't deserve that amount of energy from you. And so that was something that I had to learn, like, loyalty is great, but you don't have to give that kind of energy to everybody. Only certain people deserve it. And if they are, doing things that are showing that, they don't appreciate that, then it's okay to cut that situation off and find someone who appreciates that. And I feel like with struggle love, people just don't appreciate it. They like abuse it, like, I need you to be loyal when I'm doing, no, you don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, it was good. I appreciate the experience with you, but I think this person is, appreciate my loyalty more. So I would rather, give it to someone else. And I think that's where a lot of people get caught up. Just, you have to think like loyalty is great. Being a ride or die is great, but not everybody deserves it. And that's where you have to learn and decipher like who should have it and who should not. You shouldn't hurt. You know what I mean? But I tell people like, also, life changes you. People change all the time. And it's not necessarily because, they're a bad person or they were always like that. Life can change you. And it could be temporary. It could take you a long time. Like, some people could be dealing with death. Some people could be dealing with stress, illnesses, or, like things could be happening that could kind of change a person's demeanor or the things that they would do or they're doing. They may not normally have done that, so I think it's okay to be mindful of those situations. But like I said, it's okay to walk through it, but just know when there's a cutoff time, so that's kind of my philosophy on that.
And what I like a lot that you do in the book is, for one thing, you're very transparent. And that is so important because people can, as I was reading this, I'm like, oh yeah, I've done that. And one of the lines that I made a note to myself and I highlighted it where you said, Kevin was trying to stay relevant and I was willing to entertain that. I don't know why though. And I read it and I was like, yeah, why do we do that shit? It's like, yes, people, and staying relevant. Like, I couldn't have phrased it better, because you have these people who keep coming into your life. They just pop up and they're testing the water to see, can I get back in? What's up? And because of where we may be in our lives at that moment, or the residual feelings we may have for them, we entertain it, like you said. And it's like, even though like this person hasn't evolved, they haven't changed, I already know what's up. Like, why am I answering the phone? Like, let me just ignore the calls. It's just, it's very common. I think one of the things that you said that really stood out to me is that we're kind of taught that we should be this ride or die, and that we should that this loyalty is something that we should just give freely. But there's a time and a place for everything. And I think sometimes, and I saw a meme, I can't think of who posted it, but there was a meme that was on social media the other day, and it was like, sis, stop acting like you're his wife. I'm like, that's that in a nutshell. There are things, that's not to say that wives should accept any and everything, but that's a big part of the problem. A lot of us are playing that wife role to men who don't even know if they want to be in a relationship. They don't even know if they want to be exclusive. But we're playing that wife role.
Oh yeah, I definitely feel like that was me. And I feel like everybody should prove themselves. I'm a big fan of that. Like, I hate when people go through life say, I don't have anything to prove to anybody. Yes, you do. Like that, your reputation is everything. Like, you should always be trying to be mindful of, am I doing what I say I do? If I say something, do you respect my word? Do you say, oh, her word is good? Like, your reputation is everything. And it's a part of every aspect of your life, right? Your financial reputation, your credit, whether, what's happening in the streets, what your job, like that reputation is everything, even when it comes to people. So my personal relationships, my reputation is high because I respect, I respect other people all the time. So I feel like, I don't really like when people say that. I feel like, yes, you always have to prove yourself. But going back to what you said in regards to people trying to stay relevant, I feel like it's a power thing. Like, people want to know, do they have a certain power over you? A certain amount of power to influence your decision making. And that I think for women is really hard because we're emotional. Like we're more emotional. So we'll think with our hearts and not like, does this really make sense? And so I think men do that and women do it too. But I think women are more prone to being like victims to that, So that was like the hardest thing because I'm an emotional thinker. I'm an emotional, I wear my heart on my sleeve, you know, so I try to experience life with love all the time and forgiveness. I can be manipulated very easily because of that, because I'm always thinking with my heart. And so when you have these situations where people are kind of doing what they want to do and getting over and coming in and out, you know, that was definitely a part of the abuse for me. It's a hard balance though, when you're dealing with people, when to go with your heart and when to go with your head. Like it's a really hard balance, you know, because you don't want to, because sometimes when you overthink things, what happens is your insecurity kicks in. You know, you start making up stuff. You know, it's
I'm good at that.
You know,
I will create a whole story. Like I've worked myself up. Like I'm so serious. Like my sister, she knows. Like I really owe her so much money and therapy because I will get myself so worked up and make this whole just drama.
Yeah,
it's my baggage. It's a lot of it's a combination of my baggage, is me overthinking, is whatever insecurities I had in that situation at that time, is all of that. And then also I think as women, a lot of us don't want to be mean. We don't, and so we don't want to put these standards out there and say, like, this is what I want, this is what I need you to do.
Oh,
if
yeah.
you don't want to do that, if you don't want to do this, you can keep it moving, because we don't want to seem to be, demanding or pushy or needy. Or being a bitch. We don't want to get those labels, so we don't go there, or we don't want them to leave. That's the other side of it. It's like, okay, you give this person what appears to be an ultimatum, and I don't really like that word that much in that context, because me telling you my standards and what I need is not an ultimatum. That's me telling you what I need.
Right.
You can, if you're feeling it or not, you can go. But the other side of it is that person can actually, they might leave. And in the long run, that's probably best for you. But when you want this to work and you want them to stay, you're kind of scared to go there. So I think you're right. There's so much at play there that causes us to entertain these people trying to stay relevant. And I'm gonna be using that phrase so much.
Yes.
It's true.
Yeah. And love makes you vulnerable. Love makes you compromise, right? Yeah. Because you deal with the stuff when you really love somebody, you'll deal with a little bit more, and sometimes way too much, because you love them. So again, you have to have that balance between I'm compromising and I'm just being like stupid. You know what I mean? Like I'm being used basically, because I mean, it happens. And sometimes I think it's just almost natural, because I feel like when you get used to a person being around doing stuff, you don't even realize the neglect, you know what I mean, that you're doing, just because you're so used to them always being there. You don't always appreciate, so that, I think that's just a natural thing. And then sometimes you have narcissistic people who that's just what they do, so you have to be able to judge the difference and know, how to react accordingly. So.
And so what inspires you to write the book and share your story?
I started counseling. I was falling apart, like completely falling apart. I was going through like the worst situation I feel like I could possibly be going through. And I said, you know what, I'm going to go to counseling and I'm going to deal with this. I didn't wait. I didn't, I just like, I'm just going to go right into it. And, as I was talking to her, she suggested that I journal how I was feeling, because I told her that one thing that I used to do was vent on social media. And I was like, I don't want to do that anymore, because I got into a situation where I was with someone and he cheated, and I would vent on social media, and the person that he was cheating with, she would read that. And then she would use that information to antagonize me more, or, you know what I mean? Or to create situations, because I was talking so openly about it.
Right.
And so I decided, you know what, and not only that, but I feel like people were getting involved that really shouldn't have been, just because I was talking so openly about it. Right. And so I decided, I don't want to do that anymore. Not only that, but I don't want to play the victim role anymore either. So I want to find a more productive way to deal with it. So she told me to journal. So I said, all right, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try it. And so I started And I just didn't stop. It was like, I was just writing and writing and writing. I'm like, okay, this is not too bad. I'm, getting it out. I feel okay about it. And then I started reading it. And I was like, this is like a Lifetime movie. Like, what is going on right here?
Yeah, it was. I'm serious. Yeah,
it really was reading like a Lifetime movie, and I'm looking like, did I really go through this? Like, oh my God, this is crazy. And so it was entertaining, and it was hurtful at the same time, though, because when I would go back and read it, sometimes I would just cry. I would break down crying, like, I cannot believe that this is what I'm going through now, what I've been through in my life, but when the tears came, that's when I was like, okay, I think that this needs to be out, because I feel like another thing that I discovered was that I kept all of this in for so long. I was not talking to people about it. I didn't talk to my friends about it. I didn't talk to my family about it. I held this persona that everything was okay all the time. Even when everyone knew it wasn't okay, I'm like, no, I'm good. I held it on for too long. And so when I figured that now's the time to put it all out there, like really put it all out there, but also that this could really help somebody else who's also holding it in, who's also not speaking, who's trying to save face. Like, no, deal with this, because I wasn't dealing with it. I was just dragging it, And so I felt like, I wanted my story to be told, but I really felt like it would help other people. So I just, I think I journaled for like 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks, maybe 3. Then I said, I'm just going to publish it. So the next month I published it. So that's pretty much the backstory with that.
Yeah, I'm proud of you. That's just, first to seek out therapy, because therapy is not an easy process.
Right.
And it's a journey. Is not a one time you go in to 1, 2, or 3 sessions and you're fixed.
Right.
That doesn't work that way, and it's painful. So kudos to you for going to therapy and for allowing yourself to be vulnerable in that space after having been vulnerable in all these other spaces, and then doing the work, because that journaling process wouldn't have been easy. So doing that work and then sharing it. That's just, you are so brave, and you will truly save lives and help give insights to other people. Because I think one of the things that I was thinking about when I was reading the book, and it was like, not in a cheesy way, but like a Lifetime story, like one of the real, like based on real life dramas. And I was like, oh my gosh, this woman. And it's just like, because it opens like, and I want to take the audience like on a journey, like through the book, give them some snapshots of it, because it opens with you having been single for like 3 years, I think. And what kind of, what was the backstory on that? Why had you chosen to be single for a while?
I had left my kid's dad, and when we broke up, I was actually pregnant, and we had a baby. He was 6 months old, 7 months old. I had just found out I was pregnant again, and I didn't want to be in that situation anymore with him. But I was so embarrassed to be alone again. You know what I mean? And I felt like I was like, I had this negative image of myself, because I was like, oh, I'm a baby mama. And that was something that I just never wanted to be that. I always saw myself as being a wife, and then a mother, and then this. And so I was just so embarrassed and ashamed of myself that I had 3 kids by this point, and it wasn't working out. It wasn't going to work out. And I was, I didn't want to deal with someone and have them look at me in a negative way because of my situation. That was the reason why I was like, okay, that was the main reason why I said I'm going to stay single for a while and just focus on my family, because that's what was most important to me, was just having that structure with my kids, because that's what it was really all about, having that family structure. So I just said, I'm going to make the best of it, and I'm just going to be the best mom that I can be. Even if it's a single mom, I'm going to do it I'm going to be the best single mom in the world, you know?
Absolutely.
So I just focused on them. And I did that for a really long time. Not only that, but I just didn't feel comfortable with a different man coming into my kids' life when they were so young. You know, my oldest, he was 4, maybe.
Okay.
So I have 3 kids under 5, basically at that point, or almost. And I just was like, I'm gonna wait till they get older and then I'll start. You know, I just want to focus on them. So that's why I have been single. But the opening story was this epiphany that I had 3 years later after my after that situation ended, where I saw this couple and they were putting their baby in this van, and I was just like in awe of them, how in love they were and how beautiful it was. And I'm like, I want that, you know, like I do want that. As much as I say I'm good being by myself, and I really want that at the end of the day, you know. And so that's how the story starts, you know.
And that was so relatable. Like that was such a great point of entry for the book, because I read that, and I don't know if that was something that was instinctive for you to open that with that scene, but that was really, it resonated with me a lot, because I was like, yeah, I have those moments all the time. You know, people talk about it being jealousy, but I wouldn't frame it as jealousy. Like I have several friends who have really healthy and happy family structures and lives. And when I see or hear things they're doing, I'm like, oh, that would be nice. You know, because most days I'm happy, you know, or content single. You know, I'm happy with my life and content single. But then there are other days when I'm like, oh, it would be nice to have a husband. It would be nice to have some babies. You know, I have fur babies, but they're not the same as human.
Right.
And so I see that. So when I read that scene, I'm like, that's identifiable. And I think a lot of women who will read your book will identify with that in some sort of way. Even it's just what that represents, even if it's not necessarily that exact scene, you know, the kids in the minivan, just having that partnership and having somebody that you love, that loves you back and has your back, is something that is human nature to desire.
Right. It is.
That was such a wonderful way to open the book, because that's something that I think that most people can identify with. So you pull us in right away.
Yeah. So, and I think that was like like I said, a pivotal moment for me when I realized, you know, okay, this is what I really want. But like I said, that desire also caused me to stay in situations longer than I should have. Because I wanted that so much that I allowed myself to stay in abusive situations, emotionally abusive situations, because I wanted that. I feel like that's what life is supposed to be. That's what society says I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm gonna, you know, stay and make it work. And that's, as you read through the book, you'll see the pattern of abuse that I was allowing, you know, because I was trying so hard to have that family, you know, and that partner and all these things, you know. So as much as I wanted it, it also was the cause of
the Achilles heel.
It was causing needed to stay in situations I needed to be in. So yeah.
And I'm glad that you mentioned emotional abuse, because a lot of times when we talk about, you know, intimate partner violence and domestic violence, people think it's only physical, but emotional and mental abuse can, in some instances, be just as traumatic. And, you know, and it's so normalized though. You know, you hear some couples are downright toxic, like the way some people talk to each other, and it's normal. And it's like, oh, that's just how we talk. And that is something I don't think that we address enough, and really stop normalizing being verbally abusive to your partners, or just to anybody. I mean, it doesn't have to take, because I've heard people say, well, you know, he doesn't hit me, you know, he might talk stuff, but he doesn't put his hands on me. Well, that's still kind of problematic.
Yeah. And the thing is, I never even went through verbal abuse. It was all emotional. It was all mental. And like at some point I had to, some point along the journey, I had to get the police involved. And one thing that he told me is that from his experience with women, emotional abuse tends to be worse than the physical abuse, because he said a lot of times when they come in and they're like, I would rather he just hit me, because then it's over right then. I can move on. Where emotional abuse and mental abuse, it lingers even when that person is no longer in the picture. You will carry that emotional abuse with you for life sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's definitely the road that I was going down, unfortunately. And that's when I said, I'm not doing this. You know what I mean? Like, it was that conversation where I think that's when I really started to get the counseling and things. Cause I knew that I didn't want to go through that. You know, I didn't want to be a victim for the rest of my life and carry that hurt around with me. So I definitely can see that. And I also feel like when it comes to emotional abuse and physical abuse too, it creates like PTSD, really. And people don't think of it that way, but it really is the same thing. You're easily triggered by things, you know, that normally you shouldn't care so much about, you know. You overreact to the smallest things, you know, like, I mean, I feel like I suffered from that for a long time, just post-traumatic stress, because like if I was with someone, and I would say social media is probably a trigger for me, but like if they had followers that were if they were seen all the time, like if you had a girl that was always on your page all day long, I would trip off of that. But that, it really, if you think about it, that's like nothing, right? But to me, that was like a huge deal, because I had been cheated on in that way. So now it was an easy trigger for me, you know, and so it became a point where everything was an easy trigger for me, because, you know, I had suffered from it for so long. I had been in these toxic environments for so long. They had all this drama, that all I saw was drama, even when it wasn't around me, really. That's all I could see. That's all I could feel, was this toxic energy, even when it wasn't there. So I feel like a lot of women suffer from that, and they don't realize that that's what it is. You know what I mean? You're not insecure. You're suffering like from post-traumatic stress. You have to deal with that, you know?
Yes, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. And thank you for bringing that up, because, you know, our people, especially particularly in the Black community, we don't talk about the prevalence and how PTSD manifests. You know, we're always thinking, oh, well, that person, she just tripping. You know, she just over the top. She just crazy. She just this. No, there may be something else going on there, because everything that happens to us has an effect.
Yes, it does.
And it's just, and when you go through all these disappointments and just different things that happen emotionally in relationships, and it can be, you know, post-traumatic stress from just even witnessing things, being in environments where there's a lot of chaos and there's a lot of drama, that can impact you. And we have so many people who are dealing with that, and you go into these new relationships with this baggage that's unresolved, because, you know, you didn't go to therapy. You think that, okay, I just need to find somebody new. And that was one of the things that you had said in the book, like, we go try to find somebody new thinking it's going to be any different. But it's not going to be different if we don't do some work on ourselves first, because you're bringing that baggage with you in this new scenario. And then the new person that you're with doesn't even know what baggage you're carrying. They don't know what's in your bag, just like you don't know what's in their bag until y'all get together and there's a big drama. And you're like, oh, okay. So it triggers you when I do X, Y, Z.
Yeah. Yeah, and it may not even really be, like I said, it might be the smallest thing that really should not be a big deal, but because you didn't heal from it, it's like if you have like an open wound, right? That's unhealed. Any little thing is you're gonna, oh my God, like you're gonna be hurt from it, right? The wind could blow and you're falling apart because you have this open wound that's not healed, right? It's the same thing. If you have an emotional scar that's unhealed, any little thing is going to have you falling apart in pain because you ain't healed from it. You know what I mean? So I feel like that was also a part of my issue in relationships. And I used to feel like, oh, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't cheat. I didn't cuss them out. I was okay. I may not have been doing those things, but what I did do was go in unhealed. And I brought in some of the stuff that really wasn't, you know, they didn't need to suffer from that. Or I stayed in situations that I was not healed from. and I tried to make things work when really the wounds were too much. You know what I mean? I should have walked out. Me staying, I think, was also problematic because I would bring situations up. Even if he was trying to fix it, I would bring it up again, and to me, that's like a slap in the face to him. You know what I mean? And I feel like I didn't really realize that until I went to counseling, that I was also a part of the problem. Every time I would bring it up, I'm a part of the problem. Even though, yeah, I was hurt and I have a right to be hurt, like that person also has a right to be forgiven if I allow them to stay in the space. If I allow you to stay in the space, I have to forgive you, because if I don't, then I'm the problem. And that was something that I didn't realize at first that I realize now, so moving forward, I know, like, if you do something that's unforgivable, I got to let you go, because then I become a part of the problem if I stay in a situation, so I don't know. It took a lot for me to realize it, but I think you have to do some internal soul searching to kind of figure out who you are and your impact on another person, so.
Yeah. And that accountability is something else.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the things that therapy is really makes it kind of challenging, because you go in there thinking, okay, I'm going to go find this person, this therapist, to help me fix all my problems, all the things that everybody else has done to me.
Yeah.
But you get in that space with that therapist and it's like, okay, we've got to start looking at your role in this. What did you allow? What did you choose? What did you do? And that's, that can be hard to hear. That can be hard to do that. Like you said, doing a lot of personal examination and reflection, that can be real hard pillow, because it's tough to look at yourself and say, yeah, you know what? I've been messing up. But then it's also very empowering, because now I know what my triggers are. I know what to avoid, and I know how to move differently moving forward.
Definitely.
How do you think that people, in addition to, when we talk about this issue of moving on, but still carrying the baggage, and I know you have used therapy as a resource for addressing that baggage, but what other things do you think that people can do to be able to move on without all this baggage, or at least be a little bit more transparent? So say, you are, and I don't know if you're dating or not, and I don't need to necessarily, you don't have to share that if you want to, but, what should people do, before they get into another relationship, and to try to make sure they have a different kind of outcome? Like, do they have a conversation with their partner about what's happened in the past? Because one of the things that I've heard a lot of women say is, be careful about telling a man your past, because they can use it against you.
Yeah, they can.
And so where do you fall with that? Like, how much should you disclose in this communication so that this person knows, well, when you have all these different women on your page, this is a trigger for me? Like, how far do you think people should go in that, so they can kind of reduce some of that baggage, or at least give that person a heads up that this is something that bothers me?
I would say don't date until it's no longer a problem. I would say work on you first. Don't go into a situation and you got easy triggers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because now that person is going through something. Now that person is going to be abused by you unintentionally, because you're not healed. So you're going to go in and hurt somebody or put them through some stuff that they don't deserve to go through, because you ain't deal with you. So you got to deal with you first, and if you're not going to do counseling, learn to forgive yourself first. Forgive yourself for allowing certain things to happen, because I feel like a lot of times people will, instead of forgiving themselves, they'll retaliate all the time. Oh, I got to get this person back. I got to do this. Just forgive yourself, because sometimes people do stuff and they don't want to apologize, and they don't feel I did it, so what? And then we retaliate. No, learn to forgive yourself first, because a lot of times that apology will never come. And if it does come, it's not sincere. You know what I mean? It's just to, like we were talking about before, about getting their power back. Sometimes they'll say it just to see if they still got the juice. Like, no. You know what I mean? I don't even need the apology, because I've forgiven me, and I've forgiven you too, without you having to ask for it. So it's like having that abilities to provide self-closure, is important. And then just work on you when you feel like you can go into a situation and fully trust that person and fully trust yourself to be open, then go into it. But if you know that you're not there, then stay by yourself. It doesn't mean that you can't have like healthy relationships or friendships, but when you go in with these high expectations of someone else, make sure you're able to sustain that yourself. And if you have these easy triggers, you're not at that level that you should be, to be dealing with someone one-on-one like that. So just don't do it.
And for my friends listening to this, Dr. Willis and I did not talk about this point before we started recording.
Oh, is that
so
like
I didn't know. Yeah, because I say that to people all the time. I'm like, you ain't ready. You ain't ready. You need, don't date right now. And so I didn't know what your response was going to be to that. But that's kind of, and I practice what I preach. I haven't been dating for like at least since last spring, last summer. For that reason, it's like, you know what? I don't want to get into something with another person. And I'm bringing, like, I know what my triggers are. Until I'm at a space where that's not an issue for me, I'm not going to put that on somebody else because that's not fair to them. And it's not fair to me. Not if I want a different outcome this time. If I want things to be different the next time, I have to do the work so that I come into it different, more self-aware and more healed.
Yeah. So. And you know what? When I was younger and I was in between, so what a lot of times, or in the book, you don't really see the time lapse, because in between these relationships, I would be single for 2 or 3 years or more. I think the most I went was maybe like 4 years, where I dated not one person, didn't give out my numbers to anybody. I didn't do anything. I was more career driven and family driven. I didn't date anyone. And, the kids were part of that. But again, I just didn't want to be around people. And what I decided this last time was that I didn't want to do that anymore, because I didn't want to stay single for 3 or 4 years because of a situation with someone else. Like I wanted to be able to move forward more quickly. And that's why I decided to do the counseling, because if I can't seem to do that on my own, let me get some help, so that I can accelerate that and have an accountability partner who can check me when I'm falling back into this, hole, or when I'm making, choices that maybe aren't as healthy, or, if I'm too introverted, because I'm naturally a shy person, introverted, just like I said, an accountability partner. Because like now, like I'm 39, I'll be 40 in May. And I just don't feel like I have the gift of time right now to just be like, oh, I'm just going to be single for the next 5 years. Like, no, like, come on, like it's time to be living and enjoying things. And so now what I am doing differently is just rethinking the type of relationship that I want, or the type of love that I'm looking for. And so I feel like now what has helped me, instead of looking for this one individual who's going to love me and, we're going to exchange this love, now I just give love to everyone. I support everyone. I show love to everyone and not expect it to come back. I feel like if I show you love, if I support what you're doing, then you'll turn around and do the same, and that energy will eventually circle back to me. And so I've decided to like expand my network, but look for situations where I can just be supportive of someone else and show love and be there for someone else. And I feel like so far since I've been doing that, even just since this situation happened in July, it's just been remarkable for me. Like the love that I've gotten back already, just from people that I barely even know, just from just being a good person, a supportive person, to even people I just met, it just seems like the energy has been, I don't know, just amazing. And so I'm just looking to establish those type of situations where, in even like platonic situations, or just I meet, a new girlfriend, like, hey sis, you're doing amazing. Like, let me come to your pop-up shop. Let me buy your book. You know what I mean? What can I do to help your situation right now? Just even having those type of situations has just filled me up. You know what I mean? And I think that's what I'm trying to express, like the love that I feel just from being loving to everybody else. The love comes back. And that's really what I'm looking for, not necessarily a romantic relationship, but just to have a life full of love from everyone around me. Not just looking from one person to love me so exclusively. I just want to surround myself with loving situations. So that's what my focus has been. And I think that, at some point, if the relationship happens, then it'll happen, but it'll be still, I think, something that stems from the most purest thing that I could be, is just being loving and, being supportive to everyone. So
I think that's so powerful and just it's healing. It really
mhm,
heals when you move and you live in love.
mhm,
Because I think for myself, for a long time, I always felt like I couldn't be vulnerable in that way with different people, because you don't know
mhm,
if somebody's going to take advantage,
mhm,
because that's generally what I experienced or that I saw. And then it was very freeing for me to decide to say, similar to you, to say to myself, you know what? I've got boundaries, and it's appropriate and
mhm.
healthy for me to have boundaries with people, but I'm not going to proceed with everybody with my guard way up here because I'm worried that they're going to do something to hurt me or be ungrateful. I'll operate with my boundaries, but where I want to give, I will give. And that's, the love, the friendship, the support, all those things that you mentioned. And it's very healing when you just feel yourself up with that, instead of the stress of being like, I've got to be on guard, or I'm avoiding all of this because I'm afraid of this. It's like we can go to therapy and work on our healing, but we can also do what you just talked about, and share and spread that love, because I do believe in the effect of karmic energy.
Oh yeah,
It's very real.
yes it
And
is.
also it shifts your focus, because when we focus on, what we do have, what is present in our life, we focus less on what may not be there.
Mhm,
And like attracts like.
mhm.
So when you're out there with this great energy, and just, you will surround yourself, inevitably other people who are in that same space will come around you.
Exactly.
And when the
Exactly.
timing is right, like I really do believe that things align when and how they're supposed to. So when you're focusing on your healing, and just, cultivating that positive energy and warmth in the world, everything will align when and
Yeah,
how it's supposed to.
absolutely. And that's definitely how I'm choosing to live my life at this point. Just waiting for that moment, but also I just feel like you said, the energy will circle back. I call it like the boomerang effect, basically. So if
Yeah.
I throw it out there, even if you
Yeah.
don't return it, somebody will. You know
Yes,
what I mean? So
absolutely.
it'll come.
It's real. I mean,
Mhm,
it's real. I've been getting nothing but that since I started this show. Like, it's been
mhm,
so amazing. Like, that's kind of been my other therapy project.
mhm,
And all of the people like you that I've met, all of these amazing women, and just people that I never would have met had it not been for this project,
mhm.
has
Yeah,
been just, and it's been nothing but like I have new friends,
yeah,
the
absolutely.
people that I met as a result of doing this show. So it's real. I mean, you
Mhm.
really heal through love. It sounds
Yeah.
sassy and very hippie, but
But
it's
true,
very true.
right? It's so
Yeah.
simple but so effective. And
Yeah.
people feel like love is so complicated, but it really isn't.
No,
Like, you know what I mean? It's the other stuff that's complicating. Love is easy. Love is simple.
it really
It's
is.
other stuff that you bring into it that complicates it. So leave all that stuff out. Just,
Yeah.
just be
It's love.
loving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love. It's, yeah. The other stuff, you're right. That's what the fear, the shame,
Yeah.
all those things, the worry, all those triggers, all that baggage, that's what complicates love.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes work to not love, and to
Mm-hmm.
withhold love, and to be afraid. So it's
It
like,
really does, right? It's such a natural thing. Like, that is the other things that kind of messes that whole thing up, right? So,
mm-mm.
leave that stuff alone, and it's easy.
And we don't have time to be repressing, or suppressing, the best part of ourselves. And you
Mhm,
definitely don't have time to do that, because you are so busy with all of your projects
mhm.
anyway. I mean, just the book, and publishing the book, and then your consulting firm, and then your journalism work with Real STL. Like, let's talk about, like, first of all, how do you juggle all of that, and you're a mom, and you're taking care of yourself?
Right.
Like, I'm
I,
just, like, really? Like, she looks fabulous. She's healing herself. She's doing all these amazing things. Like, how, sis? Tell us.
I have long days. Like my days, like I wake up at like 4 or 5 in the morning, and I just go all day long. Like I work very, very hard. I don't want anybody to be like, or tell anybody, oh, it's easy. I just,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. It
It
ain't, the
takes
hustle
some
ain't
work. Let
easy.
me tell you,
Yeah.
it takes some work. It takes some dedication. It takes diligence. Like persistence, all of that. Like I have to constantly be focused on where I want to be. And sometimes where I want to be evolves. So I have to readjust what I'm doing, you know, but it's constantly just being focused on being the best person that I can. And I've been blessed with the ability to do these things, you know, so I'm just going to roll with it because not everyone is given those opportunities. So I'm definitely going to live up to it and do the best that I can and help people in those areas. Because everything that I'm doing really has to do with me wanting to show women that this can be done. Like you can do this. My consulting work is teaching women that they can be executive leaders because we don't have that out there in the world right now. It's very, very small percentage of Black women who are CEOs or in executive C-suite positions. Right. And so I feel like now's the time to really bring light to that and see like what we can do. And so my goal with my firm is to be a high profile recruiter, basically. I want to be able to pull the brightest women and put them into these positions by working with the hiring company and the individual. So I want to just be the middleman, but make these connections. And a part of that came when the Black Lives Matter movement was at its peak. And I believe it was the president of Wells Fargo who made a statement that he couldn't find Black talent. And I was like,
really?
Where are you looking? Because
I'm right here. I got like dozens of friends.
My sis got an MBA over here. My sis got an MPH over here. Where I see all this talent work.
Yeah. I don't know if you can hire all of us. Do you have enough roles for all of us?
Right. Like really? I was like, no, let's help them find these people because they're out there. And the problem is they are kind of hiding in corners, right? They are not applying for positions. And a lot of it has to do with imposter syndrome and not even thinking that you could get it. So a lot of times we are more than qualified for these positions and we don't go for them. And it's because you feel like I don't even have a chance. For whatever reason, even if you know you got the qualifications, you feel like you won't be picked, so you don't apply for them. And so I want to really help women get over that hump and try to get them to feel like, yeah, I need to be here. Not I want, but I need to be in this spot. Like, because what that's going to do is going to affect my kids and their kids and their kids. If I'm holding on to this position that's paying $300,000, that makes, you know, a difference in generations to come. Even just me, just one person, you're affecting a whole generation. And I should be here, you know, because when we look at the generational wealth gap, it's crazy. And it's because we don't have like those type of positions where you're making enough money to invest. You're making enough money to purchase a home. You're making enough money to leave, you know, your kids, you know, money and things like that. We don't have enough of that. So you see that the gap is getting wider and wider. And Black women are actually graduating more than anybody else. So how is it that we have all these credentials behind us, but not in these positions? And so I kind of have this slogan, you know, that Black women went from being the help to the educated help. Because as much degrees and all this stuff we have, we still the support, and we should not be. We should be leading, you know. And so that's what I want to do with my firm, is to create this culture, this community of women who are leading. So
we need that. Thank you. We need that. I mean, there's nothing else I can say. You hit everything on the head. I mean, for real. I mean, when we talk about the generational wealth and why that has been stagnant in the Black community, it's, you know, everybody's talking about the seat at the table, but I don't want to just sit at your table. I need you to pay me, because the money matters. It's, you know, yes, having the seat at the table is important so that we have that voice, we have that input. But when we talk about wealth building and really making change in our communities, it takes money to do that as well. And so, yes, the money, the connections to have that power, because a lot of times we make it the title or the seat at the table, but we don't have that power. You know, we're not the key decision makers. The buck doesn't stop with that particular person. And so all of those things need to be part of the package. And it's important that we have individuals like you with your company, with your firm, that are paving the way to really, you know, get all of these women who are qualified, because that's the thing, there's so many Black
Mhm.
women, Black people, and Black men and women who are more than
Mhm.
qualified for these
Mhm.
roles. They
Absolutely.
exist. It's a big part of the problem is the laziness of a lot of employers, including that CEO at Wells Fargo, because it is lazy to say that they're not out there, because they're out there, but where are you going to recruit? Look at where you're actually going to recruit. Are you going to HBCUs to recruit? Are you advertising positions? And I know that they don't do a lot in papers anymore, but when they do, are you advertising in papers that, would target particular demographics that are outside of just your normal, the people that you usually want to work in your firm that make up the majority already? Are you really focusing how you're recruiting? And a lot of them are failing at that. So
Yeah.
it's holding these folks accountable and having firms like yours with this pool that can collaborate with them and say, you know what, I know that you lack the initiative or the direction to be able to do this. So I've got a pool of qualified talent over here. Let me help you. That's what we need.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, you know what? I find that a lot of companies don't want to come out and say, "I'm looking to hire a Black woman." Like this is what I'm looking for. They don't come out and say that. You know what I mean? They may say we encourage diverse, but they don't come out and say it. But in other situations where barriers may exist culturally, they are okay. Like for example, they'll say, "I'm looking for someone who's bilingual," right? Well, you're doing that because you're trying to overcome some sort of cultural barrier, right, with your clients. Well, guess what? Being an African American is also a cultural barrier. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You need people that look like me for me to do business with you. You know, like that's what I want to see. I'm gonna be more comfortable with that. That's a cultural barrier. So you should be just as direct about saying, I want to hire a Black woman because I have all these Black women who are clients and I want them to be able to relate. I
Yeah.
mean, like you should be able to say that, but a lot of times you don't see that, but it's the truth. Like you need diversity, you know what I mean? Because the world is diverse. And I feel like people need to be more comfortable with saying that. And if they're not, then you need to hire someone like myself who will do that for you, that will pull and say, yep, okay, if you can't say it, I'll say it for you. I'm looking for a Black woman who has an MBA. You know what I mean? Like, let me do it if you can't do it, but at least I can help you meet that quota that you're looking for in a way that I'm comfortable with, that maybe you're not comfortable with. So I was doing some research last night and oh my God, I forget her name. I just have drawn a blank, but the young lady who was the president of BT, she used to be current president. Yeah. She just actually started the same thing. She started a company with the same type of mission as mine. And so when I saw that, I'm like, that is fabulous because, we know that this needs to happen, so I'm to partner with her and, maybe do some other things. Like, I'm just going to go big, like, and say, hey, can we together, but I mean, like, there's not a lot of people doing it, but I saw her doing it and I'm like, this is amazing because this really needs to happen. So hopefully, fingers crossed that I can, create some things and do some things here locally in St. Louis, but also branch out across the nation.
Absolutely. I mean, the time is now for that. And I think that companies are starting to see how it's impacting their bottom line. I mean,
absolutely.
And I can't think of a specific one, but there have been incidences where there've been these advertising campaigns, major campaigns where they were culturally tone deaf. And it's because you had a bunch of white men and women sitting at the table who came up with this promo that was completely insensitive or offensive or just ignorant. And so I think that those sort of things, unfortunately, for a lot of companies, it has to hit their bottom line before they realize, you know what, it can't just be a room full of white folks making decisions. We've got to bring other people in, that. And the good thing is that we're demanding it now. Consumers, clients are demanding it now.
Yeah.
It used to be acceptable that this organization just didn't have anyone that looks like you and I, but now we're saying, where are your Black clinicians? Why don't you have any Black financial advisors here? We're asking those questions, and people need to continue to do that because that lets people know that you're paying attention.
Right. Exactly. and if you don't, like you can get canceled. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
you know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, yeah, cancel culture is
like,
real.
I think a lot of people know that now. Like a lot of companies are like, oh no, we can't be in that, that category. Like the world will cancel you. So better get with it, So yeah, hopefully, more people are doing things. But I also like to address the form the committee thing that a lot of people or a lot of companies are doing. Like that tends to be the cop out or the excuse. Like we formed a committee. Okay, what is the committee doing? Like, show me the results of this committee. Like, that I think that's something that I tell a lot of people that I work with, like, what is your company doing to address diversity? And they all say, oh, we have a committee. Okay, that's good. That's a start. So tell me, what have they done in the past year?
Right.
Have they hired people? Have they changed, like, what are they doing? Are they increasing their training? And it should not just be, we hired a white woman.
Right.
That's not the diversity that we're looking for.
Yeah.
And I seen that happen too. So just, just ask more questions. And if there is a committee, like, can I see the results of their work? Like, let me see something, a project that they were working on where we've seen some success in terms of diversity, make sure that they're being accountable and not just preaching to the choir or just coming in and talking about the problem. Because a lot of times what happens in the committee, they come and they talk about the problem without a solution.
Right.
So you want to make sure that that's happening as well.
That's a great suggestion. And the accountability and action items. It's, it's not enough to just say we have this committee and you don't actually do anything.
Exactly.
We have to be engaged as well, in the organizations that we're part of. We really do. And the cool thing about the millennials, the younger generation, is that they are expecting that. They are expecting to go into an organization and they see diversity and that it's not just tolerated, but that you're actually embracing it and it's part of the culture of that organization. And I think that that's the other thing that's pushing companies to say, you know what, we got to do different, because it's going to be a problem to recruit talent in a while, because a lot of the younger people, they're not going to tolerate that.
Right.
And they're expecting it. And then we've got a more savvier consumer/client base that's also expecting it. So I'm hopeful. I think that you will be very busy, very busy between your consulting firm, your recruiting consulting firm, and being a journalist with Real STL News, which I'm sure keeps you very busy because St. Louis stays popping.
St. Louis is very busy. And I came into that role because I wanted to give back. Like I wanted to give back to the community. I wanted to basically pull up my people. Like I've done things, I've made it. Now I need to educate everyone else on what we could be doing to grow as a whole, or even if I mentor someone, like how can I help? How can I give feedback? How can I do this? So that's why I got into the journalism role, because I wanted to be able to teach and guide, people. And so St. Louis is different. We're a different community, and it's been a learning experience for me. I love it a lot. And it also is very demanding emotionally because we have so much going on. And I feel like St. Louis tends to be a trendsetter with certain things. I feel like when we get tired of something, we react to it. And I think we set these standards, for like the fight, against things that are not right. And it's good, but it also is, like I said, emotionally demanding. And so I try to make sense of that all the time. Like, okay, well, we have all these things that are going wrong. We have a lot of people who are pushing against it. You know what I mean? It looks like turmoil on the outside. It looks like disturbance, on the outside, but really it's a lot of people trying to get what's right. You know what I mean? Try to get, fair house, affordable housing. They're trying to, do the right thing by their kids, make sure their kids are being educated. They're fighting, for just to be able to have what everyone else has, and it looks different, on the outside. And now that I'm in this role, I kind of see, I'm like, it's a lot of problems. We have a lot of problems that need to be addressed. And I'm just taking it one case at a time, basically. So it's a lot of work to do. But I feel like if I help one person, you know what I mean? Then I'm okay.
Yes, that's a win. We have to celebrate all the victories.
Absolutely.
All of them. So with everything that you have in your toolbox and all of the experiences that you've had, what is one of the big defining moments of your life? If you had to just pick one that was really pivotal and shifting you to be where you are today.
Honestly, it probably has to do with my education, because, you know, education is so important to me. It always has been. But I had to make a decision at this point in my life where I thought about stability, or I thought about taking a risk to grow. And I believe I had 3 children at the time. My youngest was still an infant. He was under 1. And I had been trying to finish school. I was working on my bachelor's degree. And it was taking me longer because I had changed majors in schools a few times. So I had to take, you know, extra classes and stuff. So it was taking me a little bit longer, but I was going hard, you know, and I had just started working a full-time job for the first time. And so I had to make a decision. I was in my last year of my undergraduate program. I had a semester left, and the 2 classes that I needed were offered during my work hours. And I was like, okay. So I'm like, you guys are not doing this in the evening on the weekend. It's like, none of that, right? I'm like, okay. I said, okay. So I can either quit my job and finish my degree, or I could keep working and wait another semester or whenever they're going to offer these classes, and then graduate, you know, in the spring, whatever. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to do it, because I feel like life gets in the way, stuff happens, you know, I may have something else. And I'm like, then it'll be another year. I'm like, the longer I drag this out, you know, I increase the chances that I won't be able to finish. And finishing is the most important thing, because it's going to open up other doors for me that this job cannot. And so I quit. And I didn't really have that much of a backup plan, honestly. And I'm the type of person where when I think of something, I always have plan A, B, and C, right? Always, no matter what I do. And so the backup plan it was like I had a plan B. Barely. It was like a possible B, right? It was like, if anything is out of place, this all falls apart. Because basically I used my financial aid, and I calculated it down to the last penny, where I used a loan to pay for my mortgage and my car, and like, I think my gas and electric. That was what it would pay for the next 4 months or 5 months until I was done. And so I said, I'm going to have to figure out another way to pay the phone bill and buy food and do this and that. So, I mean, it was like airtight, like nothing could fail. And so I quit my job, and it actually worked. Like, it's like God was over me, you know, because it was like, I mean, nothing got cut off. Nothing got cut off. We always had something to eat, and it was rough, but at the same time, I made it work. And I remember I was waiting for my grade to come in. It was December, and I had already applied for graduation. I was getting ready to walk, and I had this one class, and I just was waiting on that last grade to come in. And when I saw the grade post, I literally fell on the floor crying. I just remember I just fell out crying, because I was so relieved, like, because I knew I had risked everything, right? I could have lost my house. I could have lost my car. I could have been starving. The lights could have been off. I risked everything that I had been working for so I could finish my degree. And that was the best decision that I have ever made in my life. You know what I mean? Because it definitely changed. Not only that, but the next semester I went right into my graduate program. And I was like, I'm not even going to stop. I'm just going to keep going, because I have the momentum now. I know I can do it. I've been doing it for 5 months now. I can keep going. And I've kept that mentality since then. Like, don't be afraid to take risks, because sometimes that is going to be the biggest door opener for you. You know what I mean? So I think that was a changing moment for me, because it definitely has created these opportunities for me, you know, just by having that mindset. So that was probably it.
That was wonderful. That was wonderful. It just shows, I think we downplay, and it's not to create anxiety in people, but everything is really everything. Like there are some things that we like overthink and make they're a big deal, but one decision can really change your entire life.
It really can.
One decision, like whether to take that semester off and go back the next one. I mean, it can completely shift your trajectory. And that's why it's so important for us to really know where we want to be and really be as healed as we can be to make those decisions that are prioritizing our own personal well-being. Because otherwise, you may not be in the headspace to make a good choice for yourself. If that habit had have been when you were dealing with, relationship drama, you were really stressed on all these other things, you may not be able to focus and say, what's going to be best for me, or to have the strength to plow ahead, because I can't imagine how hard that was for you, just the time and the effort and emotional toll and physical toll too. I mean, people don't, unless you've juggled like school and work and then being a mom, that's a lot. So it takes everything for you to be able to do that. And when you have all this other external stuff pulling from that, you may not even be able to see that I can get through this. So that's why it's so important for us to prioritize taking care of ourselves and healing, because it impacts the decisions we make. And your every decision matters.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, I could go on chatting with you for a long time.
Great.
It's like I end up talking to people and then I have to remind myself like, oh yeah, I'm recording this like for an audience. And so they won't want to hear me just go on and on and on.
It's a great combo. Like this is just fabulous. So
yeah, I appreciate you and your transparency, your vulnerability, your strength, and just your journey, your glow up, what you're doing for the community in all these various ways with your firm, with your work with Real STL, with your book. It's a lot. You are giving back a lot. So you got a lot of good karma coming your way. So yes, you are winning. You are winning.
So much. I really appreciate that. That means everything to me. Thank you.
You are very welcome. So where can people follow you? Do you have a website, social media handles? And the audience, for those that are new, will know that all of your information will be on SheConfidential.com. And I'll also have everything in the notes for the YouTube video and on the podcast apps. But for those who are watching or listening right now and want to catch up with you, where should they go?
Well, you can find me pretty much on any social media. I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. So my professional name is where you'll find me, Dr. Javon Willis. And on social media or on Facebook, Javon Willis is my primary account that you'll find me. So for my consulting firm, the website is eliasconsultingfirm.com. You can stop in and sign up for a workshop, or if you want to maybe host a workshop with me, that'd be great too. Or just if you just want to check in and see what services we provide, you can go there as well.
And do you provide virtual services, workshops and things right now? Are they all virtual or in person?
Yeah, right now my workshops are virtual. So I'm looking to do more hands-on things locally with smaller groups. So I'm looking to do some of that, but right now, like they're all virtual. So, and I'm also focusing primarily on youth. I'm trying to mentor more young women. So that's what my workshops are right now. So I figured with me just starting, I want to really focus on giving back to like who needs it the most. And I feel like our young women probably need that kind of guidance. So that's where I'm focusing on right now.
Excellent. You stay busy.
I hear you. I try.
Well, you're taking care of yourself too. So that's what's important. It's all about that balance.
Absolutely.
So thank you again, Dr. Willis. My name is Charlene Ketchum. This is On Her Terms Defined. Thank y'all for watching, and until next time.